Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the take for Market Rebellion on this Wednesday, hump day. Everybody's talking about that. You go back and you look, Monday, not so great. Markets have had a lot of different things to digest and certainly causing the markets to get some selling pressure. You look at yesterday, really interesting day once again. Market did finish down a little bit over 100 points on the Dow. The sharpest selling coming right about midday. Then we got a little bit of relief, a little bit of improvement, still finished in the negative down 100 points. Now the NASDAQ, on the other hand, coming after a lot of those various names, didn't quite have the buoying power that we've had in the past from some of the big FANG type names. And because of that, finished down almost 200 points, 175 points, down a little bit more than 1% yesterday. And that's after we rallied in the final couple hours to get to those levels. So gives you a little bit of an idea of what's going on in the market right now and the interpretation. And certainly the NASDAQ has really been moving with a lot more power, more so even than the Dow in terms of some of the recent moves. You look over at crude, slips a little bit, it seems like every single day, but was holding on to 70, at least yesterday. We look over at the 10-year, trading right around 144, still well off that 1.5 level where we were not too terribly long ago. And what are we seeing? We just talked about some of the movements in the market. That volatility index just keeps on bouncing back. We looked just to last week, finished under 19. Now here we are yesterday, finished right around that 22 level, up about 8% once again. Volume's a little bit lighter. That part's kind of interesting to me because we're seeing a little less volume in the derivatives markets, maybe a little bit of sitting back and trying to understand and try to digest a lot of what's going on within the markets themselves, within the sectors that are flipping around and where some of that pressure is coming from. Nonetheless, 35.5 million contracts is a lot of contracts, but well off of that 44 million that we were averaging as we got into the last part of last week. So another quiet day two in a row, Monday, Tuesday. You look over at Apple. Well, of course, Apple's going to lead 2.3 million contracts. Tesla traded 1 million contracts. That's it. Nobody else in the million contract club. But so it's nice and widespread across the markets once again. So financials were the only sector that actually finished in the green. What were some of those names? And a little bit of a bump from that 10-year, a little bit of a bump off of 141 up to that 144 level. But Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, you look at AIG, all of those names working yesterday. AIG did have some call buying in the short term, right at the money call buying yesterday. That did stand out for us. We did get a little bit of a rally, as I was mentioning, off of the lows and specifically in technology when you're looking at what's going on within the NASDAQ itself. So some of the names, however, that were getting pressure to the downside, and why were we down as much as we were? Adobe, that was down about 6.5%. Salesforce, that was down about 4% yesterday. Peloton, another day down for Peloton. That was down about 5%. Microsoft, now that was what, like I say, some of those names in the FANG space, including Apple, from the highs to the lows, a pretty decent move yesterday. As a matter of fact, finishing on those lows, Microsoft was off about 3.5% yesterday. What did stand out, however, in terms of what finally was at least buoying things a little bit, maybe on the working of side, was healthcare. You look at Amgen, you look at J&J, you look at Pfizer, you look at Merck, you look at Moderna, all of those names having a very, very solid day yesterday. So a lot of the ins and outs of what really was shifting around within the market. So today, Fed Day, everybody's nervous, everybody's watching it. John and I were talking about this just before I came on, and I'll tell you what, on this day, it's interesting, all of the different interpretations of what's going on. I would still lean back onto what Jay Powell has done previous to now, which has been being very transparent, giving us basically a roadmap of what the Fed is thinking, and he has been transparent because of the fact of how he has backed that up as he's gotten into these meetings. I would expect the same today. So there will be some surprises, of course, always a little bit of a surprise, but we'll see some of the reaction, and certainly we are moving into where that reaction is going to be. So we started off the day very, very flat. NASDAQ, the Dow, up or down maybe 5 or 10 points, just nothing, not a whole lot going on as we start to prepare for this. Then we open, we get a little bit of pressure to the downside on the Dow. Down about 30 points, then down a little bit more than 100 points, still down somewhere near that 100-point level. But what really accelerated, especially in the last, 45 minutes, we're only open for a little over an hour so far, but in the last 45 minutes or so, has been that move in the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ was flat, then it was down about 100 some odd points, tried to rally back a little bit, and then last I looked, and it's going to be shifting all morning long into this Fed meeting, but down about 100 points or somewhere close to that 80 or 100 points. Crude breaking down once again, now under 70. Well, what's that doing with some of those energy stocks, the ones that we talk about all the time, those beta names, the APAs, the Devons, the Occidentals, all those names, the XOP, all under some serious pressure as we cracked underneath 70 today. And so that was one of the areas that definitely stands out. You look at the 10-year, kind of bouncing around a little bit, but right around 143, let's call it. So not a whole lot of movement today. Bitcoin around 47,000. What's going on within the sectors? Well, energy started the day down maybe a little bit more than 0.5%. Then it was down about 2%. Last I looked, down like 2.5% or more. So based upon what's going on with crude, we are seeing some dramatic moves there. Material space definitely accelerating to the downside. It was down about 0.5%, then down about 1%. What's the reason behind that? Well, Nucor down about 4% off of a missed forecast. You got Freeport down about 3% as well. Some of the other leaders to the downside, take a look at what's going on with Medtronic. That one down about 5.5%, 6%, something like that. Definitely getting pulled down to the downside. But dragging the Dow early. Why is the Dow down as much as it is when a lot of what we're looking at that's moving around is really NASDAQ based? Well, when you look at some of those leaders of the Dow, what's pulling on the markets? Take a look at Boeing. That's one of them. Chevron, obviously in the energy space. And take a look at some of these financials. Goldman Sachs. I look at JP Morgan. I also look at American Express. All of those names getting a little bit of a pull and dragging on the Dow right now. Other names within the financial space that are not part of the Dow also following along as well. Seeing some option paper in some of these various names as well. Chinese names, once again, some forces selling on some of that as well. Look at PDD, look at JD, look at Trip.com, all of those to the downside. Then you look over again, I bring it up every day, but Peloton adding to its losses, that was down about 2.5%. Cruise ships under a little bit of pressure early, but not everything is. We do have some positives out there. Take a look at Eli Lilly. That was up about 3.5%, call it 4%. UPS early on up a couple of percent. NVIDIA bouncing back after being one of the leaders to the downside yesterday was up a couple of percent, and Tesla was up early. But within this day, and obviously as we get closer to the Fed, you can expect to see a little bit more of this volatility. I look over at the volatility index fast approaching 23 as we speak. So that's another area as we've been sort of moving up, under 19, not too terribly long ago, got back over 20, 22 yesterday. Here we are pressing on 23. You can see the pattern of what's going on right now. Today, the velocity of the movement within is a lot less, but they're certainly building as we are getting deeper into the trading session, only a little over an hour into it right now. Got two unusuals for you, and then not on the halftime today, but I will be joining Melissa Lee and the gang for the 5 o'clock show tonight with Fast Money. So that'll be pretty fun. Looking forward to that. BlackBerry's number one, trading just underneath $9 a share. BlackBerry, we got 8,100. Now, this is a name that oftentimes got associated for a long time with the meme and the rebel stocks and all the rest of that. But we are seeing a nice big buyer, 8,100 of the December 9.5 calls. Now, those are going for 8 cents up to about 15 cents. A very inexpensive shot if BlackBerry can make a pretty substantial move in a very short time frame. So that's one that stood out. That's a short term. Got another one that you're going on a little bit, and it's also something we don't talk about very often. I love individual names. I want to trade the beta of the individual names. I think that makes much more sense. ETFs do pop up once in a while that do definitely grab our attention. This one did today. It was triple Qs. Now, the triple Qs NASDAQ ETF trading right around 386. What did we see? 35,000 of the January 349 puts were being bought today. So with the ETF trading at 386, these are the 349 puts. They're going for about $3. Here's also an interesting thing. Almost the entire trade came in one print. So very large trader going out there. Now, are they hedging? Are they buying the downside? The one thing that would disappoint me if that's the case is, wow, we always talk about buy it when you can, not when you have to. Well, they're getting into that area where you're getting towards the mid-20s, low mid-20s. That's a little bit higher than we were just a couple of days ago. And if you go back a little bit further than that, we have seen some levels even below that. But We are seeing this buyer. So is it speculative to protect, or is it speculative that they're looking for some downside? Either way, something that I think you've got to have in the back of your mind that we are seeing this buying right now. Maybe they're anticipating a slowdown for those FANGs to be buoying the market in terms of the technology space. Whatever the case, we are seeing that very, very large trading, and that one's going to be a tough one to interpret, but certainly got to be informed and want to know what's going on in the marketplace, particularly in these derivatives markets, because of the leverage they definitely supply in each and every trade. Folks, have a great day of trading. Look forward to seeing you tonight. If not, I'll see you on Take tomorrow. Take care.